Children of the new horizon, rising with the morning star, as your own song swells within you, come to know all that you are.
Hi everyone. For any of you who don't know me, I'm Emily Bearcat. I'm the interim head of school, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to our Upper School Curriculum Night. The Upper School faculty has planned a wonderful evening for you all. They give you a picture into the extraordinary learning that happens in this building on a daily basis. As many of you probably know well, and maybe better than I do, the students in this building are at a transformative time in their development. A time when so much is changing for them, both internally and externally. At this critical time in their development, we bring them a program that is rich in rigorous, hands-on, and inspired academics, and social and emotional learning and support. This meets our students right where they are and helps them to develop into the next version of themselves. Inextricably woven into our academic offerings and our social and emotional learning program is our arts offerings. And that includes music, visual arts, handwork, and woodwork. And I use the word inextricable intentionally because we offer this artistic programming with the understanding that not only does it meet our students in the creative and artistic and hands-on experiential realm, but that it also has huge implications for their academic development. These implications have been affirmed time and again by research into the correlation between artistic study and academic development. And behind and throughout our academic, artistic, and social and emotional programming is our social justice curriculum and our outdoor education that imbues everything we do. I think of it at times as two pillars. On the one side, we have rigorous, alive academics, and on the other, we have social emotional learning and support. And woven within and throughout those pillars is our social justice programming, our arts curriculum, and our outdoor education. Our eldest students are truly getting an interdisciplinary, developmentally aligned program that carries them through their critical adolescent years and well beyond, teaching them to be lifelong learners, compassionate thinkers, and instruments for change. The Waldorf education we offer is more than an education in subjects. It is an education that strives to create in its students a love of all learning and a desire to bring meaning to all aspects of one's life. I know firsthand the profound effects of a Waldorf high school education. As many of you may know, I graduated from the Lake Champlain Waldorf School, but at the time I graduated, we did not yet have a high school. And so I attended CBU for a year, and then I convinced my parents that I should go to High Mowing School, which is a boarding Waldorf school in Wilton, New Hampshire. I traveled back and forth and was here on weekends and there during the week. The experiences I had there with my peers, with my teachers who saw and understood me, with the academic material that met me right where I was and seemed to speak to the very issues that I was grappling with internally, the experiences I had in the art studio with music, those experiences stayed with me to this day. They helped shape who I am as a person, and they helped shape my relationship to my work and my family and the world. They laid the foundation I needed to succeed in college at NYU and later in law school in New York City. And I watched it lay the foundation for a vast array of extraordinary careers that my classmates at both schools have embarked on. But more than that, I watched and felt how it helped shape human beings to live meaningful and remarkable lives with purpose. Truly, attending a Waldorf high school was one of the most profound experiences of my life. So it is really my pleasure to be here welcoming you to our Upper School Curriculum Night. Turning to this evening, you'll hear next from Abigail Deal-Noble, who is our pedagogical coordinator and our 5th grade class teacher. Then you will hear from Rebecca Hopkinson, who is our 8th grade teacher. She will talk to you about the social emotional learning components over here. Then we will break for some mini lessons. Aaron Darling will do a math lesson, and you are free to ask him math-related questions following that. Then Sage will do a humanities lesson. They are our humanities teacher, and you're welcome to ask them questions following related to humanities. After that, we will come back here for a panel with our students, and you're welcome to ask our students some questions. And then at the end of the evening, there'll be time for some general questions and a tour. We have some upper school faculty that are not here tonight, but I just wanted to mention. Mr. McDonald is here. He is our movement teacher. Steve Olson is our music teacher, and he's not here. Vikandra Galper is our handwork teacher, and she's not able to be here. And Rob Palmer is our outdoor education teacher, but he's not here. So with that, I will turn it over to Adam. Thank you all.
I mean, after a Waldorf grad, what is there to say, right? But I stand before you today as pedagogical coordinator, but also as the mother of 3 teenagers, which I think is a much more important qualification. And so I know that as you're sitting here, you're contemplating these precious last few years that we have our children living with us. And how much has to happen in that time for them to be ready to launch, which of course they 100% will be. And what we do with this time matters so much to them and to us because we love them so much. And so you need to know in a very real way, what is this education and what makes it different and why should I choose it? And that's even harder, I think, to know the answers to those questions in times that are so rapidly changing because we know that what we're helping our children get ready for is something that we can't even really know what it's going to be. So this education that they get, it has to get them ready for that, for being adaptable and resilient and all the things that we want for them. So what I'd like to tell you is why I think this education is the one that does that. What makes it unique? A Waldorf high school does a lot of things that all high schools do. We have, as Emily so beautifully described, rigorous academics in science and mathematics and humanities and social sciences. We have sports and arts and clubs, and we get our students into great colleges. What's different is that we do those things for different reasons and in some really different ways. So let me just start with what I think is the fundamental underpinning of a Waldorf education. And that is, we all who work here believe that life is imbued with purpose and meaning. And it is the work of every person to find that meaning for themselves. No one else can do this for us. And the job of an education is just to equip us to do that for ourselves. Nothing less and nothing really more. Along the way, a lot of other great things are going to happen. It absolutely means that a good education is going to equip students with the hard skills that they need so that all doors could be open to them. And so that means, for instance, that this is absolutely a college preparatory education. But it is so much more. Because our students need not only those skills, they need some capacities to know how to use those skills. They need, and this is in our mission statement, courage, wisdom, and compassion. And so we try every day to help them develop those qualities so that they can have all those choices that we want for them and know what to do with them, not be overwhelmed with them, discern what is right for them. And to do that, we have to teach the way students learn. And so that means the early childhood and the lower school and the high school and the upper school, of course, look really different. In the early childhood, for those of you who've been on the journey that long, it's all about free play and a lot of hands-on practical experiences that prepare for formal learning. And then we have the lower school, and we have lots of hands-on learning, academics and skills, but always immersed in arts and story and music and drama, so that ideas come alive and are just filled with color and personality. And we really want children to do a lot of things in that lower school. We want them to make things with their hands, to build things and create things. And in that way, head, heart, and hands, they work together. And children feel seen for their whole selves. They feel like in school they can show up and be who they really are. And that's what we hope for, to the point that they get here. And here, something else happens. Where the teachers in the early childhood and lower school once filled the children with pictures and stories and made the learning come alive, now the students do that work. They are ready to take something and synthesize it and fill it with color and life on their own. They have the capacity to do that. And that means when they practice doing it here, they can do that anywhere. They can truly learn anything because they know how. And I think the thing that distinguishes the Waldorf Upper School, that makes learning come alive at this adolescent stage, is that we're constantly moving back and forth between the world and the self. So there's lots of big new ideas. There's lots of philosophy and electromagnetism and atomic theory in the upper school. So you're constantly being asked to open your mind and expand your perspective. And then you move in and you take time. You have time. In school, we make time to really reflect on those ideas and think about how they change you and what they mean to you. There's time to integrate them and synthesize them by working them through with art and drama. And that moving in and out, that's the key to, I think, a meaningful education. The truth is, facts are nothing on their own. We live in a world where you can find anything in a split second, and we are no wiser for it. What matters is when we connect the facts with how they impact people, with our values, when we use them to know ourselves better, when we use them to make a difference to other people. Then learning is relevant, and our life is so much better. Young teenagers, and I think a lot of you have these now, so you'll know, they are prone to ask, when am I going to use this in the real world? And sometimes the answer is very clear. Like when you learn statistics, you are absolutely going to learn that, use that every time you read a news report. And sometimes the answer is a little bit more subtle. So you won't use philosophy when you write a work memo, but in studying it, you're going to learn something about how you approach the world that could change you and the way you approach your work. That's not an answer that a 13-year-old is necessarily going to understand at first blush, but it is something as adults that we know to be true, that there are ideas we've encountered, books, people that work on us, and we don't know how they changed us until later, and we all want that for our kids. So there are so many examples of how this interplay works in the school here, but I'll just give a few to give you a little taste of the Waldorf curriculum at work in the upper school. There's a main lesson block that I've taught many times and love dearly called Tragedy and Comedy. And students study Greek drama, and they make plaster masks of their own faces and decorate them. And they consider where in their own life they have met with initiation and catharsis, which are key ideas in Greek tragedy, and it turns out in the life of every teenager. Another powerful example that worked especially strongly on me was projective geometry, which I got to sit in on one year. Now, on the one hand, geometry, students have been working on that since elementary school. It has to do with shapes and planes and space. But on the other hand, projective geometry, what they encounter in 11th grade, is something completely different. It moves outside the realm of the shapes that you can actually draw and see in the real world and into something that can only be imagined, which is such an 11th grade experience. Drawing in projective space, students find that the assumptions they've always relied on are no longer true. For instance, in projective geometry, parallel lines do meet in infinity. It is truly mind-bending, and it makes you question everything you thought you ever knew. I think in a world where there is so much rigidity of thinking, where people get into their corners and fight, literally sometimes to the death, to defend what they already knew so they don't have to move, something like projective geometry is so important. The concepts that it talks about, so perspective, infinity, transformation, angles, boundaries, duality, those aren't just things in math, they're things in us. Really, this course is a course in learning how to change your mind. And I think that is something that we could all be well schooled in, when it's warranted. So there's a lot to say about Waldorf education because it contains so much. But the foundation is really simple. And that is, the goal of a Waldorf education is to have what you need to create a meaningful life, which will be different for every single person who goes through this school. It includes academics and skills, but also time and guidance to take in those concepts and make them your own. It's an education that I think everyone deserves, and it is such a privilege to be a part of it. Now I'm going to turn the floor over to the amazing people who will be working with your students. Thank you.